Focus question for today is, how do I write sine, cosine, and tangent ratios from triangles? How do I write sine, cosine, and tangent ratios from triangles? All right, the abbreviation for sine is SIN. Abbreviation for cosine is COS. And the abbreviation for tangent is TAN. Those three buttons are on the second row of your calculator. Sin, cos, and tan. Sine, cosine, and tangent ratios. Are used to determine side lengths in right triangles. Sine, cosine, tangent are used to determine side lengths. Okay? Sine, cosine, tangent ratios are used to determine side lengths in right triangles. If you look behind the sine, cosine, and tangent buttons on your calculator, you'll see sine, cosine, tangent, -1. All right? So your sine, -1, cosine, -1, and tan, -1. Those are used to determine angle measures in right triangles. Real important that you understand the difference, all right? That sine -1, cosine -1, and tangent -1 angle measures, okay? And that the regular sine, cosine, and tangent are used for side lengths. All right, there's an acronym that's used to help remember all these ratios, okay? The acronym is Sohcahtoa. It's Sohcahtoa. Sohcahtoa. This needs to be written on your paper anytime and every time that you're doing trigonometry problems, right triangle problems, from here on out. On your assignment for the next 3 days, you're going to write it on your study guide as soon as you get it. And as soon as I hand you your quiz on Friday, you need to write Sohcahtoa on the top of the page. That acronym stands for sine is equal to opposite divided by hypotenuse. What that means is the sine of an angle is equal to the length of the opposite side divided by the length of the hypotenuse. You see where the S, the O, and the H, what they represent. Sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine of an angle is equal to the length of the side adjacent to the angle divided by the length of the hypotenuse. So the CAH in the middle of Sohcahtoa stands for cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse. The TOA, tangent of an angle, is equal to the length of the side opposite the angle divided by the length of the side adjacent to the angle. So your TOA, your T, your O, and your A. Tangent equals opposite over adjacent. Any questions? All right, so now we're going to write some sine, cosine, and tangent ratios of some angles in a right triangle. So look at the top of page 569. You got triangle QRP. And let's see, Q to R is 15, Q to P is 17, and R to P is 8. Express each ratio as a fraction and as a decimal to the nearest hundredth. Alright, so the first thing they're asking for is the sine of angle P. Sine of angle P looks like this. Sine of angle P equals. Alright, sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Sine of angle P is equal to the side opposite angle P divided by the hypotenuse of that triangle. The side opposite of angle P is 15. And the hypotenuse is 17. And they asked for it rounded to the nearest hundredth. So second, fix 2 in the calculator. And then take 15 and divide it by 17. You should have 0.88. Cosine of angle P. Cosine is equal to the side adjacent divided by the length of the hypotenuse. So the side that's adjacent to angle P is 8, and the hypotenuse is still 17. So 8 divided by 17 is 0.47. And do tangent, tan of angle P. Tangent is equal to the side opposite divided by the side adjacent. So from angle P, the side that's opposite is 15. The side that's adjacent is 8.
How do we know it's 8 and not like 17?
Because 17 is the hypotenuse. Each of these angles, Q and P, they're going to have an adjacent, an opposite, and a hypotenuse. Alright? So the one that's not the hypotenuse is the adjacent. And 15 divided by 8, 1.88. So that's your sine, your cosine, and your tangent of angle P. Now I want you to do the same thing for angle Q. Write sine, cosine, tangent ratios, and decimal to the nearest hundredth for angle Q. All right, any questions about writing those three ratios, sine, cosine, tangent of P or sine, cosine, tangent of Q?
The first one does same.
Say that again. Sine of Q? All right, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, right? So you're looking at angle Q. The side that's opposite of Q, opposite is this one.
Oh my god, I just divided it wrong.
Okay. And hypotenuse was the 17. Any other questions there? All right, let's do one more of these. Triangle ABC. Side AB is 2 squared root of 2. Side BC is 2 squared root of 6. And the hypotenuse is 4 radical 2. All right, let's do sine, cosine, and tangent of angle C. Sine, cosine, and tangent of angle C. So the sine of C is going to be equal to opposite 2 squared root of 2 over hypotenuse 4 square root of 2. Now when you're dealing with these side lengths that are radicals, Guys, you can simplify this square root of 2 over the square root of 2. Any number over itself cancels out, right? It becomes a 1. So these two cancel. And you're just left with 2 over 4. And what does 2 over 4 equal? 1/2. And what's 1/2 as a decimal? 0.5. Cosine of C. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent to C is 2 radical 6. Hypotenuse is still 4 radical 2. All right, now let's do some simplifying here before you start putting it into the calculator. What does the 2 over 4 simplify to? Simplifies to 1/2, doesn't it? Square root of 6 divided by square root of 2. Square root of 6 divided by the square root of 2. That simplifies to the square root of 3. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and they're both under the radical. Okay? Now, this 1 in front of the radical is just like a 1 in front of a variable. It's a lot of times it's not written, it's just implied. So this is the same as the square root of 3 over 2. So do that in your calculator. 3 square root divided by 2 equals. Make sure you get 0.87. All right, now do tangent of angle C. Tangents opposite over adjacent, so we got 2 radical 2 divided by 2 radical 6. The 2 2's out in front, they cancel out. Radical 2 over radical 6 becomes the square root of 1 over the square root of 3. What does the square root of 1 equal to? 1. So this is 1 divided by the square root of 3. And that's the easiest to type into your calculator. 1 divided by 3 square root, equal sign. And make sure you get 0.58. These will be much easier if you simplify your fractions prior to putting them into the calculator. Numbers that are both underneath the radical can be simplified. Numbers that are outside the radical can be simplified. Any questions? All right, your assignment for today is on page 573. Problems 1 through 6, and then 16 through 21. Check headline for homework. And answer your focus question.